Muy bien, damas y caballeros, llegó el momento. Hacemos el último llamado para que, por favor, quienes están de pie y quieren escuchar atentamente a nuestro...
Please, if you're standing on the back, please sit down. Let's see what's next. We begin this session. Key topic for the future of the sector, the revolution of the consumer, connecting with new generation and experiences. So, please take your seat. We live a transformation, deep transformation in habits, expectations of clients, especially new generations. They are looking for transparency. We'll see how technology, AI, digital marketing, and cybersecurity are redefining the relation between the underwriters and the persons. How to learn from the past. This could help to anticipate tendencies and to build experiences more humane and better connected. There are promises that are forever to protect you, to promote your dreams. Take care of what you love. Our promise for more than 100 years for you to be insured. Always INS, National Insurance Institute, more than 100 years. Ladies and gentlemen, as moderator of this panel, we have the privilege of having a reference of the topic Latin America, Hugh Batan, actuary and Insotech consultant, CEO of Insurance Latam, part of the Alliance of the Pacific, and his participation is sponsored by Group Assis. He will open this session together with co-panelists. Will share enriching exchange of ideas about the challenges, opportunities of this revolution of the consumer. Mr. Hugh Bertin, good afternoon, Hugh. Welcome. Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. It's the first time in Latin America to pronounce my name, but I cannot pronounce her name. What we will do, we have a super panel of 90 minutes. As I discuss with my friends, everybody, please get up, stand up, all of you. I know, it's after lunch, so please stretch a little bit. All of you who are in the back and here, please move 2 seats in front of you. So my friends, when they see emptiness, they become hesitant. These are the good students in the front, very good. Thank you for moving. To ladies that didn't move, I'm checking you, ladies. Please. Bad students back there too. Please move 2 seats to the front while everybody gets comfortable. I'll ask you during the last 30 seconds I've been here, who saw his cell phone? A lot of people. That means that the cell phone is in our hands. So we'll talk about technology. The first topic, AI, CEOs, final users, will leave with an agenda to implement technologies. We'll have Restrepo, how is the new consumer, the new generation? It will be good. John Justin, he will talk about InsurTech world and AI. InsurTech, so we have an expert. And finally, we have Peter Flacker. We have an interaction about cybersecurity. We're ready? 90 minutes? Let's get started. I'll talk about two things. If I don't go over time, let's look at the past. Let's have humbleness, stating we think that things are going to happen. We are convinced, and there are many of us who are convinced that AI will be a changer. A French man who lives in Argentina, and I know what I'm talking about, but we're going to talk about to see what was our sensations, our feelings in the past that didn't become truth. This is an article, Newsweek in 1995, explain why the web will never worked. Good prediction. Read this article, it's very good because clearly every argument was good. He convinces what happened. A couple of things. 2017, remember? B2C came to revolutionize the world. This video from 2027, you forgot. 2017. InsurTech of New York, talking about insurance, house insurance, and man, look at it, what a vision. We're talking about subscription, simple questions, scanning, if it works or not, a design, excellent, guarantee coverage, credit card, super design, prime was going to be donated to a cause. How to predict events? ChatGPT, we think this is obvious. The camera, when we see this, it has a wow effect. What else can it be done? In few minutes to remember as things of the past. Lemonade. 8 years we're talking about the insurance sector was very enthusiastic about lemonade. Then people criticize lemonade, and we ask ourselves today if it is fantastic or not. The whole insurance sector worldwide was involved. 2025, this is the action of lemonade. It went from 90%. So we ask ourselves what happened in the last few months and multiply by 3. But the action of lemonade, InsurTech, everybody, B2C, didn't have the impact we were expecting, the description that the sector was expecting. 2015, we work about this. Customers wants to buy in 2 clicks. Customers want to buy in 2 clicks. There were many articles. In the left side, Google, simplify things, zip code, we can quote, we can Google 2015, that's it. Insurance companies are over. But then we have the pandemic. The whole sector on the left, intermediation, grew, kept growing. Intermediation, insurance is relevant. It was shown. Amazon 2 years ago launched from in the country of my friend Anju, home insurance. UK, it will be a revolution. After a year, they're not doing well. So we keep thinking in things, and when they happen, they didn't happen, and they come to pass. Peer-to-peer, peer-to-peer. Let's say the insurance is good for anything, and we just do things mutually. There were many agents. We don't need the insurance company. Peer-to-peer died. Nobody's talking about it. If we thought it was a super revolution and nothing happened. Next, you want another one? You forgot about this 2022 metaverse. We write papers about metaverse. Metaverse? A lot of people doesn't know anything about it. Didn't work. We realize, if you agree, once we realize that the enthusiastic of the past didn't come to pass, do we have to believe today? What is the tendency? So what to know which way he's heading? So I'll be like this guy who worked an article, the internet will never work, to provide some clues, because the client we see reflects in a different way. Premièrement, the distribution, insurance sector, we come from a sector, intermediation, it's important, it's relevant, 50 years now. I think this originated in France. People from Brazil think everything begins in Brazil. So we do the same in France. It was a new type of model. But today we're realizing that the new channels of distribution today is the new gold nugget, because traditional player, stakeholder, can play with their own development to connect with different channels of distribution. New Bank Brazil, 6 million clients, Fintech, Supercanal, Mercado Libres, 6 million. They sell more than 10 million of insurance policies, more than 10. The Semparar is a device you have in your car to pay tolls. You stick it in your front window. All types of channels of distribution, because the client is there. Finally, I don't believe that the future is measured. It for sure is embedded. I don't care if it is embedded, but where are my clients? They are in different channels. Finally, the issue of AI for clients. Here, for example, in the case of Visa, a lot of people are doing things. For example, aquí you realize what Visa is doing in the distribution of the sinister's liquidation, the type of documents, and we don't read anything. We require AI for this, and we have the case Sentinel, which is Inshotech that works against fraud. What they're doing allows with LLM, the chatbot, read and prepare a report automatically in the case of fraud, meaning that when a client is fraudulent, the insurance company would say, we reject you, the LLM that issues a report and provides the reason of why you rejected. To get medicines of high value and so forth. Fraud. This is the ideal world. Let's see what it is in the agenda of anybody. There are new business models. The perspective of any broker, insurance company, the client is looking for novelties. Here, the case of Brazil, I think is super interesting. Cover insurance company in Brazil are partnering with Pichu Plus, something specific within a life insurance. We're talking about Colombia, Leonisa, Brazilians. Women are selling it door by door, and a cancer insurance is included as you buy one Leonisa product. It's an interesting aspect. The last one, Muffin, Brazil, talks about it's an old concept, but implemented now. How much do you want to pay? Tell me, $10 per month? I'll tell you about the coverage you will get. It's a different mindset and how they were able to use this way of thinking. Point 4, health, aging, benefits. The agenda in Latin America. Many stakeholders are doing many good things, like this company is called in Betterfly, software for human resources that deals with insurance, health insurance, revolutionary. And finally, I don't want to leave my friends without words, beyond insurance world. Basically, to deal with a problem, which is our challenge, what we see here. Contact point we see on the left, health, insurance, of course, and we have nothing. We don't have contact point, how to increase this new proposal of value. Candif in Spain, they're building a ecosystem, insurance of employment. They don't need a payment. How can they be employed again? Kimmer in the US, they sell home insurance. What they do now is to propose coverages, no financing to improve your house, to buy a home, new home. So fintech world, it's Why is everybody doing it? Because the challenge is to get points of recurrent with the clients. I see time.
I see time is moving along and we are doing well in my presentation. I would like to finish with 2 or 3 messages regarding the bonus that I mentioned before. Is the following. I believe that our issue in the insurance sector is what are we doing in social media. And in Latin America, we are doing very, very little, especially in TikTok. And what I think is very weird is that Latin America is one of the countries that most consumes social media, more than United States, more than China. So the question that we have to ask ourselves is, why are we not present there? Even these countries, the social medias are very relevant. Obviously, TikTok in China is the third platform or e-commerce in China. This TikToker is gonna allow us a presentation tomorrow, and it's gonna allow you insurance companies to sell inside that type of platform. And so to finish, I would like to show you this so that we can also enjoy it. It's a video. I love this video. It's from an Argentinian influencer called Jero Frias. We're going to listen to him and we're going to discuss his message. I would like to talk about something important. It's not a severe situation. It's not a grave situation. It's a family decision, but it's not a division. You know, I follow the Spanish league. Is this a question about football? No, it's not. I follow the Spanish league all the time, right? Yes, I'm very clear about that. I want us to change insurance company. What does the Spanish league have to do with the insurance company? It has a lot to do because now the official sponsor of the Spanish league in Latin America is Chup Seguros. It's a very known insurance company. Chup Seguros. Yes, Chup Seguros. Wouldn't be Shop Seguros? Shop Insurance, the insurance company. No, I'm talking about Chup Seguros. It's not Chum, it's Chow. Chum, Chow. You write it Chum, but you pronounce it Chow. You want to switch insurance companies, but you don't know their name. I know how to pronounce the name. It's Chum. It's not Chum. Call it whatever. We're not going to switch insurance. Why not? Because we're not going to switch insurance just because they're sponsoring the Spanish league. So we need other reasons? Okay, I have other reasons. They also sponsor the Independiente del Valle, the male and female team. Okay, so now I understand. Okay. And so why did I show this video? This video that I love it. I don't know if you heard it well. I think you did. So why do I like this video? Because obviously this influencer is reaching millions and millions of people that our sector many times doesn't even reach at all. So how many times was your name Chum? How many times would your company like to listen? I don't know if you counted how many times they say Chum and Chum, Chum and Chum. 20 times. 20 times in 2 minutes. The brand presence is super, super relevant here, and I believe that's a good experience. I feel this is an experience that if I was in your shoes, I would definitely do something like this. So I'm going to do two announcements. You know that I am the president of the IIP, Isotec Pan American. It is an association of 250 companies, both insurance and especially issue takers and big brokers in Latin America, especially in Mexico, Colombia, Chile, and Brazil. And in this context, I can tell you that with that purpose is how we technology can build the future. We are convinced that the technology has been doing this. We have to do it well. We have to think about it properly. But I want to tell you that it's amazing that there's still the underwriters are not in this partnership, because I believe there's a lot of them that the technology of the reinsurers is going to be something relevant in the next few years. Yesterday in the cocktail in Ministry, I don't know if you were there, but some people were talking about realities or AI insured that is very powerful. Another issue, if you are interested in everything that is innovation, every month, the first Wednesday of each month, 30 minutes of innovation, we are doing something with the insurer from Mexico, Central America, all the way to South America with 100% insurance. So I want to leave you with 3 takeaways. because this was just the introduction. Now what we have are 3 presentations, very powerful presentations and precise about what we were discussing here. The first thing I want you to take is that obviously we have to be alert to any new technology and innovation, right? This is going to build the future, and the consumer is going to build on this. You see how the consumer now is consuming ChatGPT, and then 1 billion people are using ChatGPT every day. And that is a key. We have to be very aware of this. And there's a system that we got to test a lot, and we have and need to have ideas. And many things said, if somebody that fell in love with their ideas and the world exactly. And I'm not even talking about blockchain, right? Because remember what we discussed in blockchain in the insurance company a few years ago. And I believe we have to be very careful with all the hypes, right? Especially today when everybody's talking about JDI, that the factor is going to buy everything in just a click and everything's going to buy just by GPT, etc. We have to be humble because the only one that is right at the end is our end consumer that could be at 200 kilometers from San Jose. Maybe they have an interconnection, they maybe not have an interconnection. Maybe they don't trust the insurance company, maybe they do trust the insurance company. So there's a lot of things that are that we have to consider. And like I said at the beginning, more than more accent than an Frenchman. There isn't, but a Frenchman living 30 years in Argentina, yes. So now we're going to have the consumer and the new generations. Okay, the floor is yours. Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay. We're going to wait for the presentation. Okay. Good afternoon. My name is Sergio Restrepo. I have 2 items, two sides. I'm an academic. I am a professor in the INCAE and I Business School in Madrid, and I'm a consultant and director in some companies, very specialized in marketing and customer experience. And I have to understand very well the customer, the consumer, and especially understand how to connect with them. You here are all business people, company directors, and I would like to address you on a more human side, all right? Talk to you as people so that you understand that there is a new player in town, right? We have about 15 minutes for our conversation, and my objective today is to show you that you right now have a huge problem of execution in all of your companies. More or less, we calculated that is 98, 99% of the companies that are not able to connect. So we're going to do a quick exercise. How many of you are in the baby boomer generations? How many of you are baby boomers? You know, 61, 69 years old, 60 to 61, and Generation X, you know, 45 to 60. Okay, perfect, good. So you're already past the 40th. And we still have some millennials here. We have some millennials here as well, right? Okay, good. Okay, so traditionally we know how to talk to our teams, our marketing teams. They've been working on this for these events for years, right? To these audiences, they've been going for years. But somehow after the 40s, for the baby boomers, for the millennials, for the Generation X, after you turn 40, I'm going to show you that everything that starts happening in this space sounds dumb in one way or another, right? Like, for example, how many of you honestly recognize this this image? How many of you recognize this image, right? Only a few of them. What is the name of these characters, right? You have no idea what's the name of these characters, right? These characters invoice $65 million in the first semester of 2025. I'm going to repeat that. They generated $65 million worldwide in only 6 months this year, but you have no idea who they are, right? Now let's go. Okay, what is your connection? Okay, who are they? Who are they? Right? No? Don't know them, right? Okay, good. Why Halloween? Everybody was wearing a purple hair. Why? Why purple hair? Who knows why? Who knows why everybody was wearing a purple hair? One person knows, right? The K-pops, right? K-pop, yes. But what specifically about K-pop? I imagine that you probably recognize this song. Yeah, you said yes, right? You sing this song. But the rest of us have no idea what this song is about, right? You recognize the song? Okay. How many of you have bought denim in the past month, right? How many you have updated your denim, your jeans? The denim is back, right? How many of you recognize this person, right? Yeah, who's that? Yes, yes, Mr. Beast, that's right. And Mr. Beast has 400 million subscribers only in YouTube. He has a revenue of $85 million a year. He's a millionaire, right? A content generator. He has broke every record in YouTube and also in Instagram and also in TikTok. But you don't know who he is. You have no idea who he is, right? And that's part of the ecosystem of the generation set. Generation set. It's 13 to 28 years old right now. Okay, it's a big range, right? Some children are still in high school. Some children are still thinking what they're going to be their career, and others are also already working, and they are hyper connected. They were born during this technology. You can no longer talk about a digital consumer in this generation. They literally were born with technology in their hands, and especially they don't know a world without internet. They simply don't have never experienced a world without internet. And the companies that want to continue growing, they have to connect with them, and the key word here is authentic. And unfortunately, what I see in the companies is that the fiber that is connecting all of us with these different age groups, such as Generation X, Generation Z, it's breaking down. You and your marketing teams don't know how to talk to Generation Z, Generation Z. You don't know how to connect with Generation Z. That's why I say you have a problem of execution, a huge problem of execution that you need to understand as directors and resolve it. Okay, so these are people that have very high expectations from the companies they do business with. They don't compare you with the competition. They're not comparing Chubb with the Inns or Chubb with the South American. No, they are comparing you with Uber, with Rappi, and then they are being miseducated by Amazon in the speed of services, and this is something that we're not moving. And something that you have to do is ask yourself, how do we reconnect to them, right? And build on the trust, right? And how do we build on the trust? And not necessarily this is a presentation for marketing specialists, but this is what you have to concern yourself with, is how to become relevant and something that is easy to return to, something easy to understand. Generation Z are using ChatGPT like we millennials use Google. They ask ChatGPT first. This is already happening, and it's happening more and more every day. And so if a user from the Generation Z is right now looking for the best health insurance in the city of Santiago, Chile, who is going to be listed by ChatGPT? What names are going to ChatGPT provide? Today we're going to see some of the technicalities of how this happens, but you definitely have to write down that concern. How do I position my brand inside the artificial intelligence search engines? How do I get a presence there? Go back to your teams and ask them, how can I do this? So it's simple. It's simple. The other thing that is changing right now is that social media, the concept of social media is disappearing. How long ago do you not connect with somebody new in social media or to say hi? Facebook is said like it's your grandparents' house now. People are no longer using Facebook or Instagram to message each other, or what we used to know as social media, to really connect and have a conversation. Social media are now becoming what we call media based on interest based media. So out of your list, sorry, no, your link issues, right? We're no longer talking about social media. We're talking about interest-based media, and I'm going to explain in just a moment what are interest-based media, but it's got to be part of your strategy. The other point is that you continue to try to take away the attention. You're trying to interrupt, like an ad on the television. You're interrupting instead of becoming relevant. It's a very different equation that I'm going to explain in just a moment and how to accomplish it. The interest-based media are not television. The interest-based media means that we have to work a lot on getting to know our customer to be able to be relevant for them. And what many of our companies have done is taking pieces, creative pieces, ads, advertisement, and increase the huge budgets of paid advertisement. That's what's been done in the traditional world. And that no longer works because the algorithms on social media, as we used to know, like Meta or TikTok, they no longer work like that. They are not, you're not able to mask a bad creativity and amplify it. No, you're gonna waste a lot of money by doing that. If you do a quick search and these are the libraries of advertisement, you can find your competitors there, or you can find your non-competitors or other companies, and you can find ads that talk about complicated language with very perfectly done art, almost like the companies are trying to create a Picasso, and they approve with rounds of different creativity reviews, and that's not it's the search of perfection. Not to be able to connect, we need to connect in a more humane way, right? In a more imperfect world. We cannot continue to talk about co-payment. We cannot continue to talk about the technical slang that we always use. We have to find ways to participate in the community, and we have to find, to document a lot of what we do. How does an insurance company work? What is the day-to-day of an insurance agent? What is the step-by-step of submitting a claim? Right. No, we focus on ad, price, product, discount, and that's not it anymore. And let's try to provide some documentation. In Spain, there is a very famous mechanic called Angel Gaitan. Have you seen him? He's the trusted mechanic for the entire planet right now, especially the Spanish speakers. Why? Because he clearly shows the procedure. He clearly explains what he's doing and why it's needed. He's called the voice of Galicia. He's very far from Costa Rica, very far from Colombia, very far from Mexico. But still, since there's people that is interested in what he has to say, the algorithms show us everything that he has to say, right? And he's accumulating 4 or 5 or 6 million followers in social media. And in between, you guys, big corporations, you have 12,000, 15,000, 20,000 followers. That's no longer feasible, right? So we have to prioritize in 2026 the content, organic content. And first of all, this organic content, the creativity, has to be very good. First, we publish the organic content, and we let it loose. If the creativity was good, the algorithm is going to reward us, and it's going to reward us with scope. For the first time ever, the scope, it's a metric that is important. And listen to this. If the creativity is good, the algorithm will give us scope, and the scope, it's something good to have. For the first time ever in the marketing world, we have a metric to measure if we are relevant or not. And that's got to change a lot the way that we operate in our marketing campaigns. The content creators for the Generation C are very important. And there's the mega influencers, of course, but especially Generation C has influencers or content creators that they trust a lot. And yes, it's time, if you never use them, it's the time now to use influencers. It's time to know who they are and take advantage of them. The content creators that are 5,000, 10,000, 15,000, 30,000 followers, 40,000 followers, that's considered a good range of followers. What these influencers say, it's a holy grail. One of these influencers says that the restaurant you gotta go to is this one. People are gonna go to that restaurant, right? And we gotta create experiences that are memorable experiences. What does this mean? If you don't know, Mr. Beast also has Mr. Beast games, which are experiences where people can participate, but they are all designed on their very interesting plots that come out. Think about Alice in Wonderland, for example. Alice in Wonderland was written down by Lewis Carroll, whom was also a mathematician professor in Oxford, and he wanted to show that it was a world and very different from what everybody does. He criticized the Euclidean plane where everything is normal, where the door is always at the same size, where a raindrop is always the same size. And Lewis Carroll said the world could be very different. You could create a completely different world. And precisely when we create companies and we want to create memorable experiences, the Daniel Kahneman Global Nobel Prize on Economics, not an economist, but a Nobel Prize on Economy, in his research about the workings of the brain, he taught us that to create memorable experiences, we have to create emotional peaks, right? These emotional peaks have to be by design, and the last peak in the relationship has to be very high, right? The last peak in the relationship has to be very high. So think about, for example, in Disney, when you go to the Magic Kingdom at 10 o'clock at night, and it's the end of a very long day, over 25,000 steps, bad food, bad lines, queuing all day, and the last peak is the light show, right? An amazing show. When you walk IKEA stores, at the end of the IKEA store, they give you an ice cream, right? Well, they used to. Now they have hot dogs. But the important thing is that they're looking for that technique of the peak. And what they're able to accomplish with that is for people to forget, to be slower to forget us, right? To always have us in mind when it's time to look for a transaction or for help, that the people have that memorable impact, that emotion that is still there from us. You have to create these experiences in an agile way, in a fast way, not looking for perfection. No, you have to be quick about it. And that's why I'm saying that the companies are looking for that creative people, like they were their creative ads, like the masterpieces. But that's not it. It's with a cell phone, with a good mic, you can have a good, and it doesn't matter if it's a little bit shaky as long as it looks real. And that process is gonna allow you to have better quality. Let me give you an example. Some of you know who this is. Who is this? Who is this? No, you don't know him? Yes. Yeah, he is the very first video of Jake Paul in YouTube, another huge content creator. This was about 11 years ago. It wasn't that long ago, right? Jake Paul in his room is a completely badly recorded video. This is the very first video the very first video J. Paul recorded. Completely imperfect, completely bad production. But there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that. You can get started somewhere. You start at some point. Those of you that don't know Jake Paul, you've probably seen him more like this, right? This is the first one, the same one that is a content creator, is doing mega production with Netflix. He fought Tyson. He filled a stadium, 75,000 people, with millions of people in Netflix waiting for the fight, right? But the very first video he created was completely imperfect. And still, we are, as a company, looking for the perfect ad that is going to be put on Facebook, right? That's not how it works anymore. The people, that's right, especially Generation C, understand where your campaigns have no soul, when your campaign is just about selling, selling, selling. They understand that and they detect it very easily. And so my message, especially for all of you, is to make sure that your teams and you as directors of your team, you need to know the cultural code of where you're doing business. You need to understand how that culture is understood and received, and you're going to have a new role in your teams, right? You have to be anthropologist of the pop culture, of the digital culture, of the memes, of what is going on in the world. That is the new day-to-day of the marketing teams, right? We really need to be connected and constantly looking into the new generation, regardless if it's the Generation C, the Millennials, the Generation X. And so let's be consistent, right? And this is going to help us in some time to connect with them. That relevance, and relevance, remember, is that creativity that organically has accomplished and scope can be built. I'm running out of time here, but let me give you one last number, and I hope that this is an event that is better than a 67, than a 67, right? You understand the reference? Okay, so I homework for you. Because very soon you're going to be hearing a lot about the 6-7 Generation C. You know what 6-7 is about, right? Yes. Okay. So Generation C is 6-7. It's all about the 6-7. Yes. So thank you very much, and I hope I piqued your interest. Thank you.
Gracias, Sergio, por tu presentación sobre la generación Z. Ahora lo que vamos a tener es Andrew Johnston, que nos va a hablar de...
Thank you. Now we're going to have a presentation about the artificial intelligence and short tech. The floor is yours.
I'm going to speak in English if people need to make the change in their ears. What an amazing presentation, Sergio. I'm 38 years old, but I feel 138 after watching that. My name's Andrew Johnston. I run the InsurTech and artificial intelligence practice for Gallagher Re, the reinsurance broking arm of Gallagher. And I'd like to speak to you today a little bit about the amount of money that's being invested into modern technology, the impact that technology is having, my predictions for the future, but also some cautions and concerns as we think about the future. So I'm sure everybody in this room has heard of InsurTech and has heard about InsurTech for the last 10 years. It used to mean something quite specific. It used to refer to small startup businesses that were privately funded, that were going to put technology first at the beginning of their business model to disrupt the industry, okay? These businesses from about 2015 started to really capture the imagination of private investors, and all of a sudden, lots and lots of companies were identifying with the label of InsurTech. Technology became so pervasive in our industry that even incumbent insurers, reinsurers, brokers, and intermediaries started referring to themselves as InsurTechs, to the extent that now, because technology is so pervasive in our industry, the label itself doesn't really have a lot of meaning. However, if we can try and give it some meaning, I think it refers to two distinctive business models. That is, digitally enabled risk originators that are looking to use technology in a pioneering way for underwriting, pricing, risk selection, and then those companies that have created technology for our industry as SaaS or third-party vendors, okay? I estimate in those two categories, there are probably about 3,000 companies on Earth that correctly identify with the label of InsurTech. Over the last 15 years, as I mentioned, a lot of investment activity has happened in InsurTech, and I just wanted to show you this graph. It's from a report that I publish every quarter that tracks the investment figures, but you can see here on this graph, per year, this is the amount of money that has been invested into companies that identify as InsurTechs, broken down by property and casualty and life and health, both in total amounts and deal count amounts. You can see that in 2021, there was a huge peak of activity. About $16 billion was invested in 9 months into not that many companies, candidly. These were a lot of companies that Hugh was mentioning at the beginning, the Lemonades of this world, the Roots, that were looking to go public, but they're not necessarily representative of InsurTech at scale. But over that period of time, approximately $62 billion has been invested into InsurTech. Just as a show of hands, who thinks that that's a lot of money? Somebody over there? Anybody else think that's a lot of money? Emily thinks it's a lot of money. So just to put this into context, over the same period of time, our industry has had an IT spend on what I would call keeping the lights on of $2 trillion. So it's a relatively small amount of money that we've actually invested into this phenomena, but noteworthy nonetheless. Over the last 3 years, we have noticed a phenomena as a trend emerging, which is on a quarterly basis, the industry is investing between $1 billion and $1.4 billion consistently every single quarter. And while we know the names of the lemonades and the roots of this world, most of the investments are actually going into back office service providing companies that are helping with the technical part of our business. So in Q3, the numbers that we've just published as an organization, funding was around that mark, but interestingly, about 75% of the funding went into insurtechs that are either using artificial intelligence or are identifying as artificially intelligent companies themselves. And we see this as a trend that's continuing to grow as artificial intelligence as a label is becoming more prevalent. This is, I think, one of the most interesting slides you might see all day, and bear with me. This tracks the amount of investment going into insurtechs and artificial intelligent companies from our industry, okay? So this is insurers and reinsurers who are themselves making investments into these types of companies. And you can see here, it's broken down by quarter. The most recent quarter, Q3, for our industry is the single largest period of time that we have made investments into those companies. And we actually see this as a trend that will continue to emerge as our industry becomes more comfortable investing in these sorts of companies, and similarly as the prices are coming down. What's interesting, if you remember the overall investment graph, we saw the peak in 2021, and paradoxically, it's actually when our industry was investing the least, which I think is indicative of how frothy and overvalued some of those insurtechs were that were raising capital in 2021. When we as an industry do invest, insurtechs grow, they become part of the furniture. A small handful have been incredibly successful, some of which have exited. Typically, when insurtechs do exit, they do so through M&A. And that's either the insurance industry buying this technology, sometimes they buy each other, sometimes they go public. But overall, most of them have been acquired. And as the prices and valuations of individual insurtech businesses have gone down, they have represented more and more of a bargain for our industry to acquire. So artificial intelligence. I'm sure you all hear about artificial intelligence all day, every day, and it's becoming quite a confused term. It's a catch-all label for lots of different things, and part of our role as a broker for our clients is to help try and demystify some of that confusion. Artificial intelligence, simply put, is computing of a nature that has historically only been able to be done by a person. But even more simply, it is any input, process, or output that is human-like, okay? Appears like a human would have done it, requires human intelligence, is presented as a human intelligence. There are multiple different versions of artificial intelligence, and I won't bore you all with them today, but they can largely be broken down into these three different categories. So you've got ANI, which generally performs specific tasks, in our industry probably most importantly in things like fraud detection. You've got AGI, which is where a tool is able to learn a wide range of tasks at speed, sometimes going beyond what a human being is able to do. And then ASI, which is generally associated with problem solving at speed. So we're trying to take down a huge, confused label and bucket it for you to understand more comprehensively exactly what artificial intelligence is. Just to take this one step further as it relates to our industry, about 2 years ago, we did the largest survey in our industry of artificial intelligence experts to try and understand what was the best application of artificial intelligence in the value chain of our industry as the tools were most inherently applicable. So distribution and sales came back that natural language generation, things like ChatGPT that people are probably most familiar with, was the single best use of AI. In underwriting, so pricing, anything to do with risk, machine learning tools were the best forms of artificial intelligence to add value to our industry. For policy administration systems and core business systems, Any type of artificial intelligence associated with automation seem to have the most impact and the most value in our industry. And finally, in claims, artificially intelligent-powered text analytics had the most impact. And candidly, it is in the area of claims that we have seen artificial intelligence be most impacting, particularly in claims fraud detection. So claims fraud detection is the single best use case of artificial intelligence. Unfortunately, there is an arms race between us and some assailants who are looking to leverage artificial intelligence tools to create fraudulent claims, particularly in imagery. But no, nonetheless, text analytics is the most effective use of AI. So, as I mentioned, AI is becoming the topic in our industry, particularly in the world of insurtech. In the last quarter, like I say, $750 million was raised, with the average size of $16.7 million per deal. Again, just for that most recent quarter, who thinks that that's a lot of money? $750 million in 3 months. This gentleman does. Over the last 10 years, outside businesses have invested $1.5 trillion into artificial intelligence. So we as an industry are still lagging behind, but we are certainly trying to catch up. There are 4 major concerns and issues with the use of artificial intelligence in our industry that I think that we all need to be very, very aware of. The first one is data quality and accuracy, particularly for tools that are scraping the internet for information. So as a show of hands, who in this room thinks that 50% of the information online is non-fact checked? 50% or greater? You think so? Anybody think it's more than 60% of the information online which is non-fact checked? So voluntarily inputted information that anybody can put in. Anybody think more than 60%? This gentleman. Anybody think it's more than 70%? 80%? 90%? 95%? Any excess on 95%? It's 98% of the information online is non-fact verified. So if we as an industry are scraping that language from the internet, there's a 98% chance that it's non-fact verified information. That's not to say that it's wrong, but it might not be correct either. The second area is the lack of transparency, particularly with models that are running on information that is opaque to us as the user. So information goes in, it gets processed, it comes out. But it's not always clear what that process in the box is. The third is bias, human bias. So when artificially intelligent models are being developed, they are being developed by human beings who inherently have biases themselves. And the way that the feedback loop works for most artificial intelligence tools is that you have a positive feedback loop where the model confirms its own assumptions are correct. When something is incorrect, it just throws them away. So over time, that bias becomes compounded and you get a narrower and narrower and narrower view of that model over time. And the fourth area, which I think is the most important, is a lot of artificially intelligent tools, particularly in pricing and underwriting, are hyper-fixated on price and product of an individual and an individual risk. And there is an arms race to try and get as close to that risk as possible. And we as an industry run the risk of widening the protection gap as we reject more and more people that on paper look like bad risks. And that actually puts a lot of pressure on the thesis of our industry, which is shared capital, pooled risks. The second area of this journey that I don't think gets spoken about enough is what I call the return of investment paradox, okay? So a lot of people, a lot of companies in our industry are successfully running pilots, integrations with artificial intelligence, and they're getting those efficiency gains, they're generating returns on cash capital, they are freeing people up to do, in theory, higher value tasks, and that's that first part of the ROI journey. The second part of the ROI journey, which people don't talk about, is what do we do with our time when it's freed up? What do we do with our people when they're freed up? What do we do with all this free cash? How do we grow? And that's the part of this journey that we're still not good as an industry at talking about. We run the risk of giving people a lot of time back, but not training them to do higher value tasks, to use their time appropriately. And as an industry, we need to figure out that second phase if we're truly going to get the power of artificial intelligence into our industry. So to date, our industry has invested about $20 billion into AI over the course of the last 15 years. This year, in one single deal, OpenAI raised twice that amount of money. So again, when we're thinking about as an industry, if we're doing enough from an investment perspective, you could argue that we're not. So where are we heading? My own personal prediction is that the best use for our industry of artificial intelligence is what I call a bionic marriage, where you have the right tools powering subject matter experts in the right way, where we can have the most effective use of their time. So we're not going to replace underwriters with delegated AI bots, but we are going to have machines helping underwriters to get access to the right data, make the right kind of decision. I think over time, the winners in this arms race will be those companies that can most successfully create those bionic marriages. Thank you very much for listening to me, everybody, and I will hand it over to my esteemed colleague.
This is a message to the board of NewCo. We control your passwords, servers, domains, and client database. You have 24 hours from now to pay 5 million euro in Bitcoin. Otherwise, hell will break out for you. Contacting the police will result in the wiping of your entire database. The wallet address can be found in the attached message.
Todos, ¿cómo se sienten?
How do you feel? Good afternoon. You have a question in mind. If my name is Pedro Hacker. Pedro Hacker, obviamente. This is a video of a real situation. How do you feel if you get a message such as this Monday morning? You arrive to the office and the first thing you see is this video. No good whatsoever. Any one of you have not received a message such as this? You have to know, you have to be aware right now. Every 11 seconds, we have a ransom attack. We have more than 1,600 right now, every second. More than 1,600 attacks per second. Most of the people who get an attack such as this, sadly, the board of directors, they react such as this. That's in the past, of course. But if you don't prepare for an attack, you will stay like this. I have seen many boards. The result is exactly such as this. The boxer, Mike Tyson, said one time, everyone has a plan until he gets a punch. Frankly, today, if you sell insurance, if you're corporate, if you are brokers, you have to be prepared for a attack, cyber attack. The world of cyber in general will. Cybercrime today is the third world economy, worldwide, after China and the US. Expenses we expect until 2025. In total, almost $11 billion. $11 billion. Trillions, 11 trillions dollars. It's a lot. How much do we sell in insurance worldwide? It depends on the results of brokers, 15.4 to 16 billion dollars. Drug trafficking business. What's the revenues? Less than cybercrime. 20 times less than cybercrime. In a few years, cybercrime will become the biggest economy in the world for sure. Today, if you see it in your companies, think how many systems in average a company is using. 10, 20 in average. Big companies, 20 and 30 systems. That's what they're using nowadays. And why then? In this point, we just have one prime of $15.4 billion of primes. The expenses are more than that. In Latin America, in the Caribbean right now, expenditures are $90 billion, 6 times more the total prime. But just 1.5% of the companies in Latin America, in the Caribbean, buy cyber insurance. Why? Is the price? Is the product? We cannot explain the product. We don't have the language. The bridge between IT aspects and insurance. What's the problem? I think we speak a lot about risks and not about solutions. In the next few minutes, I will talk about solutions. Solutions by SMSs and big companies. How to deal with this. Here you see the results. 52% right now of attacks take place during weekends or holidays. Not many people in the office, neither IT. And once more, of course, this point, 43% of victims, ransomware victims, were threatened with physical harm. In the past, we have data, we publish the data, but now most of the attacks are not just to publish data, but to speak about their weaknesses with their clients. One of the aspects, the key aspects in the development of the cyber risk profile is the increase in relation of geopolitical attacks. Right now, cyber crime, cybersecurity, digitalization, and geopolitical aspects go together. It's interconnection, interdependence in several aspects. A few years ago, a specific country had severe attacks and geopolitical attacks. From 1 minute to the other, 1 month to the other, almost the country went blackout. Banks, critical infrastructure, energy, and more countries attack other countries. This have to be considered in these aspects. This is an aspect we saw it in Europe. About a month ago, we had a severe attack in Europe against airports. This is a company, Collins. It's a company that provides service for 100 airports around the world. That company had a ransomware attack in 23. There was another one in 25, a ransomware. But it was published, it was known that there was a risk in the infrastructure, in the critical infrastructure in relation of their services. What happened? People arrived to the Heathrow, check out to Berlin or Berlin, and no, it was not working. If you got a boarding pass, you went to the gate, boarding gate. They were with the iPad checking the boarding pass, meaning the risk, fundamental risks that companies have right now are basically in two ways. The first one, the chain, the supply chain. It's a very severe risk. Dependence of vendors to clients. Second point, always human factor, internally and externally. For example, vendors that arrive via the office, subcontractors that arrive to the office, and the risk of the dependence in supply chain. It will increase in the future once more. So we have to think how we can provide an answer, and we have to wait to prepare for the unexpected in the future. How can we do that? Frankly, what I want to do, I want to tell you about an example. I'm not using the Wi-Fi today here. Who's using Wi-Fi here today? I thought I wanted to turn it off. We can do that. But I'm using it. There's a company in the international local airport. What I'm going to do with you, I'll show you briefly. In less than 2 minutes, we get the results of what type vulnerability in the airport. I could do it in the hotel. I will conduct a scan, not just about encryption, but the employees are using, so many are in the dark web. Let me see. You see it here. What we do is as follows. We use a domain, just the domain. That's all we need. Based on the domain, we can conduct a rating of their red, evaluate the rating, and a quantification of how could be a sinister for the client. This type, this kind of underwriters use it. We developed something in Spanish and in Portuguese. We presented in Portuguese. Have it yet. I will show you some points in Spanish. What we do, a very deep analysis in key points. Key points we found. We found here 6 key points. The first one, resistance of the network against outside attacks. Second point, based in this attack, how stable is this structure? We have some more points. Configuration of the email, if it is encrypted 100% or not. And obviously also aspects what type of data we found in the dark net. We'll see it. Some data we found in the dark net, not just about this company, but there is data from another example, not of this company. Many times the problem, the big problem about clients if they're insurers or brokers, how do I explain the cyber risk to my clients? Because not everybody manage technical aspects. But what we did, we have an image here. Dark web, potential risk, claims, an example with the sinister. Some examples in the practice how they're using clients. Banks, for example, nowadays they use obviously if they provide credits, they conduct a credit check. Many banks have not only a credit check, they have conducting a cyber check. They analyze the portfolio of cyber portfolio. Some examples, data examples. We found data not just specifically about this client, but Badu, bracers, meaning dating platforms and other platforms. Why is it important to get to know this data? Because if an employee is using his email publicly, there is a high risk of an extortion against the company. And we see data of who is, what is his email, his name, his last name. In less than 2 minutes, I can do that. What do we need? How do we do it? 6 points. Location of the company, structure, number of employees, volume of sales, industry, and the state. In the state, in less than 2 minutes. 3 minutes, questions. Also, we could do it in less than 2 minutes. Lately, the most important one is what could be the impact you for the broker, for the underwriter, as a lost, as a sinister. This is the company, like the airport. The most pessimist event is like 3.5 million, excluding third-party contracts. If somebody asks me what type of limit this company needs, at least $5 million of coverage. That's what I wanted to show briefly in terms of cyber. Take into account 3 key points. If you are an insurance company, if it is corporate or individual, each one of you could have an attack against tomorrow. It's just a matter of time. It will happen. You have to defend yourself. It will happen. How are you going to defend yourself? You have to think in the following, in the resilience. If you were to have an attack or an incident, how are you going to defend? And it goes from the board down. I have a chance to work in that country during the last 3 years. And frankly, it was a pleasure working with clients like here, developing the local market, providing solutions. One point is key. The market of cybersecurity, insurance will get developed, but to develop a 1.5 from cyber in Latin America and the Caribbean, we have to change a few things. We have to become more economic, more direct with the product, more simple to explain, and to have a process, more flexible process. These are my conclusions, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, and pura vida. Thank you again.
Bon, pasamos. Bien. ¿Me escuchan? Sí. ¿Acá?
Is that all right?
A ver, para este panel, la idea de...
Thank
creo
you.
que si veo un poco el tiempo, sería bueno para que manejemos el tiempo de ustedes. La idea de este panel...
Okay, I see the time and we want to stay in time. The idea of this panel is to talk about the consumer, to talk about the technology, and we're going to divide it in three big parts. The first one is we're going to start talking about the consumer. We're going to talk a little bit about the technology, how it changes, how we approach the consumer, and we finish a little bit with the division, okay? So I'm going to start with you, Sergio. You know a lot about the consumer, right? We sometimes talk about the digital, the digital customer, right? And insurance, for example. What do you think? Do you think it's all of us? Are we all potential customers? Can you help me with the mic? Seems like my mic's going out. People on the audio table? My mic is going in and out. Always in a panel of technology this happens, right? Yeah, might be easier to just do that. So as I was saying, Sergio, what I would like to do is how do you see the evolution of the digital customer, right? It means that everyone is going to become a customer, 100% digital customer, and digital is going to continue to grow. How do you see that future? Well, from my point of view, the digital consumer doesn't really exist, right? I think that term is outdated when we refer to the digital consumer. I believe that right now, everybody is digital now. All consumers are digital. I believe my mom, 80 years old, sends emojis, uses WhatsApp, they buy online, and so we have all the generations involved in one way or another in digital. And it's no longer a real division between the physical world and the digital world. It's just the world that we live in. And I believe that's what it is, right? And I think what did change drastically was the people's attention, right? The business has always been for the attention, and right now most of the people's attention is on the digital world. So that's where the question then comes back to be, are the companies really adapting to build their experiences on an online world? Because the consumer is the consumer. So you're saying that at the end, the digital customer doesn't really exist anymore. We are in a world that is very fluid, but as the insurance sectors, we can think that people want to buy everything online in just 2 clicks. You think this is not going to happen as evolution? It's just the way the new generations are. Yeah, I think that 100% of the technology will be in 2 clicks. We're always going to look for that efficiency, right? And any user, any consumer is going to prefer to buy in 2 clicks in 15 seconds than buying in 1 hour or 45 minutes, right? And so, yeah, that's definitely going to happen. But it's also going to happen the human side of it, right? The people are going to want to continue to have a human connection, and what's going to happen is that humanization eventually will translate into many faces, right? It could be an AI agent, an artificial intelligence with empathic characteristics, or it could be a person in TikTok being very empathic and etc. But definitely the technology side is going to continue to move forward, and we have to eliminate the friction so that the process is faster, but we're going to have a curve where everything adapts. Where do we fail as the insurance sector? Because at the end, when you see, especially in Latin America, the amount of implementations that have been accomplished in the digital world, it's very small, right? So where do you think we are failing? working with the companies, what I realize is that digital is seen still as an additional project, a side project. It will be in English, and I think that the digital world is no one more project. It's the project. We are not becoming digital. The companies have to be digital, okay, not turn digital. The companies are copying. Companies are copying a lot what other companies are doing. Other companies are still moving very slowly when experiencing with technologies. The bigger the companies or the procedures for experimentation with technology are very bureaucratic and slow, while small companies is very easy for them to just buy, test, didn't work, let's switch to something else quickly, and all of it. So definitely, I see how the projects, the transformation, digital transformation projects are approached as isolated projects and not with that willingness to become fully digital. Okay, now let me go to Andrew. Andrew, you're able to hear the translation, right? Yes, good, good, okay, good. So the question for you, Andrew, is from your point of view, with your global understanding, where in the world we see the best adaptation of insurance companies to the new type of consumer that is mixing the the human touch and the digital quickness? Where is the best implementation?
Answered in the question in as much as I do think that the best examples are where technology carries the weight of the predictable, low value, very repetitive tasks that ultimately allow people to be people and be experts in their field and strive for growth and look to be, you can't mimic gut reaction. You can't negotiate. You cannot motivate technology in the same way that you can with a human being. And so I think it's about being intellectually honest about what processes can be done by technology, but keeping the human absolutely front and center of the engagement with the industry. We're already seeing a lot of really good examples of this. And on stage I talked about claims fraud detection. And the best examples of claims fraud detection are where the tools are looking for known instances of previous claims that show up over repetition, but the tools themselves never make the final decision. You still have a person that sort of will evaluate, what the system has said, we think that this is a fraudulent claim. But we still want the person to confirm it to be true and to ultimately train the machine. And I think that it is that bionic relationship that will ultimately be the best version of success going forward.
Okay, ¿y dónde?
Okay, that's great. So where in the world would you see the use of artificial intelligence like that to improve all of those journaling of the customer, the journey of the customer? Do you see best practices coming out of a specific place, or everybody's still learning?
Well, the best claims fraud detection company that I know of is actually from your home country. It's from France. I would say that about 50% of insurtechs are in the United States, and I think they probably have a competitive advantage. Not least, they have a lot of, they have a culture of entrepreneurialism, and they have a culture of wanting to innovate. The UK probably has the second highest number of insurtechs coming out looking to pioneer this type of space. But it's the sorts of places that you would imagine here. It's the Silicon Valley, it's New York, it's areas where you have a good balance of insurance companies, tech companies, investors, entrepreneurs, innovators, all working together in collaboration. The amazing thing about technology is it's geographically transcendental. So you could create an amazing thing in New York and then bring it to Chile or Argentina or wherever. And I think that the industry will move at its own speed, and we will all move together, because I don't think it behooves the industry to have one or two insurance industries being too radical, okay? And the right kind of technology will be trained for all. I think the risk is not seeing that you're part of that bigger community, and that you shouldn't be looking at these sorts of experiments from others as possibilities for yourself.
Okay. Y voy a aprovechar para vincular
Okay, okay. Let me take advantage of that to link to a question that I wanted to make as well. You have a vision about the risk, right? The risk linked to technology. When you hear about these evolutions of your customer, about the short tech, say for you, Peter, then how do you feel? Is how big is the threat of this risk? And could be stopping this digitalization. Do you think it's gonna stop it? It's not gonna stop it? What do you see it? Well, first of all, we are just getting started with the digitalization, right? And the era of digitalization is just starting. Today, we talked a lot about ChatGPT. Most of you don't know evil ChatGPT, right? Who knows evil ChatGPT? No, no, tell us about it. Tell us about it. It's something that you should know, right? Well, if I want to do an attack against a person, I could use evil ChatGPT, right? It's gonna give me malware, for example, right? That's one issue. And now we talked about artificial intelligence. I'm using a lot of artificial intelligence. I obviously worked a lot with machine learning before that, in contracts, for example. And to be honest, when you think about cybersecurity or the connection to cyber crimes, the criminals are using artificial intelligence as well, right? And a way of using artificial intelligence is, of course, the biggest problem that we have right now, which is that the criminals are always a step ahead of us, right? And that is not going to change. That obviously, with the use of artificial intelligence, it's going to it's going to improve the image in one way, but in another conditions it's not going to improve it, but it's going to give you a worse image. And so as a conclusion, there was once a scientist called Marshall McLuhan. He said in English, with every new technology,
All image is changing and not just the frame. Quiere decir,
which means that if you had cyber attacks in the past, with 99%, they're not going to happen the same way in the future. They always have to go through the future, to move towards the future, not go back. So there's a lot of people that are using examples from the industry, benchmarking from the industry, what was happening, right? Forget about that. You have to think about the future and the development of technology. Otherwise, you're going to have the Mike Tyson moment. Okay, good. So in just one more minute, because now you mentioned in your presentation very briefly to develop cyber for the individuals, right? What do we need? Well, to be honest, I'm very clear about that, and also what I said before on what was said about before. You know, what is the SME part, the SME market, the individual market right now? We need to have solutions that are digitalized solutions for the SME and individual market. An example I see all the time is the following. If somebody is selling a health solution, a car solution, right? And at the same time, they could offer, why not? You know, if I'm doing a renewal of my car lease, right? At the same time, I could offer, why not check your risk profile in size, right? It's cross-selling to a certain point. We're not going to develop a market on cybersecurity in the traditional way through PSMEs or individual. It's not going to happen. It's going to be too slow. It's too complex. It's too expensive. Okay, I see time is moving along and we have to almost be done. I would like to talk about 2030, the year 2030. Let me ask each one of you. Let me start with you, Peter. You know, I wanna know the consumer of 2030. Tell me, what do you see the consumer like in 2030? How do I see the consumer in 2030? Well, focused in quality, yes, but more in price as well, because it depends a lot on the region, right? If you talk about, for example, Asia, in Asia, insurance means bad luck, basically, right? In South America, when you talk a lot about with people from Brazil all the way to Mexico, developing solutions, this consumer, this general consumer, are interested in three things. They want to understand the product, right? Second, they also has to be economical, right? But the third thing, if there's an event, you have to pay for the event, right? It means that in 2030, insurance, the way I see them, are going to be a lot more digital than what we see today. Yes, there's still, there's still agents, insurance agents. There's still people using artificial intelligence to find your insurance. But the conclusion is going to be that we need concepts and solutions that are a lot more agile, more fluent, easier to find a solution and more economic. Thank you. Andrew.
Consumer for 2030.
Well, I'm going to give quite an underwhelming answer, Hugh, because I do believe that ultimately we will all become our parents, and I don't know that we will be so radically different in 5 years' time. But I think that the companies that are successful in engaging with us in 5 years' time will be empathetic. They will know when to approach us, how to approach us. They will minimize repetition. But I do believe that the best versions of success will be absolutely centered around the continually evolving needs of the consumer. So back to Sergio's presentation, what are people going to be like in 5 years' time? What's their point of reference? What do they understand? How do they expect to be engaged with? And it will just be a slow evolution in that direction. But I don't think there's going to be some big explosion, and next year we're all going to be different species. So.
Ok, bueno, Sergio, vamos a terminar por ti.
Okay, thank you. And we go to you, Tick. You are a great expert on the consumer side. So how do you see the consumer in 2030? What can you tell us about the evolution of our consumers? Well, it's interesting that many things that have said about the consumer as an evolution towards a year 2030, 2040, is a consumer that is less connected. And that's interesting because everything points that everybody's going to be more hyper-connected, right? But it seems like in the next generation, there's going to be a backslash against technology, and we'll have to see, right? But what I do think is going to happen is that we're going to have consumers that are going to be focusing a lot more on value, right? We see already a growth in value-oriented purchasing, but it's going to be more personalized value and faster, right? The interactions are going to be with a lot less friction of what's happening right now. But we will have to see still, how this prediction comes through becoming less digital. That disconnected generation, it's what's been said. It's a generation that might be more disconnected. I don't know how it's going to happen, but there's some signs that there might be there. Well, thank you. Thank you very much to all three of you. Thank you for this panel. I think it was very interesting. I hope it was interesting to all of you as well. I hope you had some insights from it. And of course, you can also approach each of our experts during the breaks, and if you had other questions that you wanted to